Welcome to the Social Geeks podcast, socialgeeks.com.au. Sign up for your own website now and download and watch free guides, courses, and videos to help your business thrive online.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Social Geeks Digital Podcast. My name's Kyle, and today's episode, we're going to go through something really cool. We're going to go through the state of the internet in 2022. Why does this matter? Well, we all use the internet in some way, shape, or form. But did you know that there's still a third of the planet that don't have internet access? That blew my mind when I figured that out. That's as of 2022. And even though we're all feeling anxious and there's a lot of fear and uncertainty in the world around the inflation that we're seeing, the recession going on, I think that we do have a lot of reasons to be really excited. And we're going to cover that off in today's episode. So we're going to talk all about where are we at in 2022, where are the trends going, what have we seen over the last 20 years, and what are some of the key things that you need to be aware of for an internet business or just a business at large. Some of the key statistics that I found really interesting about the internet in 2022 was that with 8 billion people now on planet Earth, we still only have around 5.6 billion people who have access to the internet and are using it on a regular basis, which is pretty staggering when you think about it. How much do we take the internet for granted in our lives? If you're like me, it's way too much, right? I use it probably 12 hours a day plus, easy. Whether it's social media, catching up on emails, watching videos, doing work. All my work is based online and I work 100% remote. So it's staggering to think that there's still a third of the planet, a third of humanity that don't have access to the internet as of 2022. From the year 2000 through to 2022, the amount of people getting access to the internet has grown by 1,300%. We've seen a huge amount of growth, 10 times the growth since the year 2000 alone. And just think about it, in your life, we've seen a fundamental revolution in terms of how we communicate, how we do business, how we share our lives, and for better or worse, this is the age that we live in, the age of information or disinformation. It's pretty staggering to think how much things have changed. 13 times the people from the year 2000 now have access to the internet. Now, in terms of numbers, the highest amount of internet access in the world is North America, with 93% of North Americans having access to the internet. Europe's not too far behind with 88% of their population having access to the internet. The fastest growing populations though is the Middle East and Africa, who are seeing records amount of growth in terms of their access to the internet. Now, I have a big bet that things are going to change rapidly with the next 2 years, maybe even the next year, the entire world getting access to the internet. And I think that's going to have huge benefits for the entire planet. And I think it's really going to change things in an exciting way. In the last year, a trend that we've seen continue is mobile usage. 54% of all traffic in 2021 was based off a mobile device, and that's going up. When we compare the fact that 53% of all traffic last year was based off mobiles, compare that to just 2009, where less than 1% of all internet traffic was from a mobile device. That is crazy, right? 2009, flash forward 12 years, whatever, and you've got literally half of the internet being mobile-based. Insane. So we're seeing more and more people connecting to the internet using mobile phones. I'm going to take an educated guess and say that as third world countries get more access to the internet, most users will be based on mobile phones. It doesn't make sense for them to have a laptop or a computer to add those costs to accessing the internet. Phones can do pretty much everything these days, if not more. I think that third world countries, we're going to see most users being solely based on a mobile device, which has its pros and cons, but it means that your website needs to be mobile first. It means that your business needs to be mobile first. It means that you need to be thinking about what types of apps and what types of channels are people going to be based on with mobile devices. Most likely social media, most likely using different apps to shop and browse. What browsers are they using? Are they using Safari, Chrome? One thing that I think is kind of cool, kind of scary, is how dominant Google is in this world of ours. Not only do they get 93% of all search traffic, but they also have Google Chrome as the browser. Google Chrome accounts for about 63%. That's 2/3 of all internet traffic is using Google Chrome. They have access to all of the websites that you're visiting. They have all access to, what extensions you're using. They know a lot about us, which is kind of scary. But that is the power of Google, right? If you're not doing Google ads, you might want to check out my podcast talking about Google Performance Max and Google Ads because they are the monolithic internet company. They have so much information about us. There's obviously a very scary conversation, like what are they doing with this data? Who are they selling it to? These guys are providing a profile about me to advertisers so I get more targeted ads that are actually relevant to me. I think it's kind of good. I would much rather see stuff that I actually want on the internet and kind of see ads that are relevant to you that you might enjoy. Now, the next section that I want to talk about is what are the top websites in the world? There's probably no surprise that number one, it's Google. Everybody uses Google. 93% of searches online are using Google. Something like 3 billion searches a day are happening on Google. That's like 40,000 a second. It's insane. Now, the top 10 websites are good to know because you want to know where your customers are based. That's at least how I think. So Google is number one. YouTube is number two. Both of those are Google companies. Number three is Facebook. Number four is Twitter. I was surprised by that because I thought Twitter, with its 200 million, 300 million, arguably, depends on how many bots they have, right, Elon? Twitter is number four, which to me is kind of staggering. I didn't think that they would have that much traffic, but it just seems like the type of usage, people use it every day. So it makes sense that it would be one of the most visited websites in the world. Now, the next top website was Instagram. Instagram came at number 5, which again, no big surprise. Instagram has close to 2 billion monthly active users. It doesn't blow my mind that Instagram would be in the top 10. So the next 5, I'm just going to list off really quickly. We have Baidu, the Chinese-based search engine. Wikipedia, no surprise there. We have Yandex, which is Russia's Google. We have Yahoo, and the last one was one that I hadn't heard of, Xvideos. So those are the top 10 websites in the world as of now. In terms of the number of websites that currently exist online, there are 370 million registered domains. There's more websites, there's billions of websites. However, these are domain names that are currently registered with ICANN. ICANN is the centralized service that keeps a record of all domains. Now, in terms of the number of websites, we talked about 370 million websites. Over a third of these are using WordPress. WordPress is an open source website management system or a content management system, which you can use to upload to your server to help manage your website easily, and it's free, which is pretty cool. So as long as you have a server, you can have a free website up online using WordPress. How cool is that? So as of 2022, WordPress has 127 million websites using its software. That is amazing. I'm a big advocate for WordPress. I also love Shopify, but WordPress is open source, which means it has a community around the world contributing to new features, improvements, and nobody owns it. It's actually free to use and it's community run. So I think that in its essence is kind of where the future of the internet is going. I know that I said before that there's 370 million domains currently registered, but there's billions of different websites. How can that happen if there's 370 million domain names? Well, there's different websites that are for blogging or for writers or social media profiles that technically are counted as websites. So if we factor in all subdomains, anything that would be like Kyle's website.blogger.com, we have 1.9 billion websites on the internet. That's insane. If there's 5.6 billion people in the world, almost a third of those have their own website. But the caveat there is that only maybe less than 10% of the active internet users have a registered domain name. So interesting to note, right? It looks like a third of people have some form of publishing blog, but they might not necessarily have gone and taken that to the next level, let's say. What are the top apps and social media platforms? We're going to base this off total of monthly active users. That's generally a good statistic that we'll look at for social media use. And number one, no surprise, is Facebook. Facebook has currently 2.7 billion monthly active users, making it the largest and most commonly used social media platform in the world. Facebook has had a really tough year. I think that it's made a lot of maybe poor decisions, focused a lot on the metaverse and not on its core products. It's very buggy. People are getting over it. There's a lot of privacy concerns that people have voiced, but the thing is, it's still the most commonly used social media platform in the world. And it's where our grandparents are, right? So it's still good to be on there. The second most common social media platform is YouTube, 2 billion monthly active users. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're probably not surprised, but if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a big YouTube user, this is for you then. YouTube is super relevant. It's still very, very popular and it's growing because most of the social media platforms don't focus on long form content in a searchable format. YouTube excels at that. Where Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are all going video first, they're still feeding you your videos based off their algorithms, not necessarily the content that you want to see. So YouTube has become the Google of video. I use it for anything. If I'm researching what's the latest tactics or trends on TikTok or Instagram, I'll go to YouTube. I'll subscribe to my favorite podcasts on YouTube. And you can advertise on YouTube really, really well using Google Ads. So YouTube is a great social media platform for any business, anybody who wants to get out there and build up their brand. YouTube is the place to be. And that's hopefully where you're seeing me. Hello. Now, the third most popular social media platform really surprised me. I thought it'd be TikTok or Instagram, but it's Facebook Messenger. Even though it is unencrypted, they're scanning all your messages to target you better. It is the most popular messaging app in the world. It's had 5 billion downloads on the Google Play Store alone. It has 1.3 billion monthly active users. When you look at Instagram as well, which has 1.3 billion monthly active users, you can see why Meta is this all-encompassing technology platform, right? They've got Facebook, they've got Messenger, they've got Instagram, they've got WhatsApp, they've got Oculus, they've got a lot of different platforms that we all live on, pretty much. The next most popular app was LinkedIn, surprisingly. I thought TikTok would probably be at the top of the list here, but it seems that LinkedIn is actually making a resurgence. They've really focused on being a social media platform rather than just a business-to-business type of networking platform. And you can see that in terms of their videos, in terms of their algorithm kind of feeding content a lot better. So they actually have just under 1 billion monthly active users as well. And TikTok comes in at the next place with 700 million monthly active users. They do have well over 1 billion users, but it seems that it's maybe not as active. And I'm interested to look into this a bit more because I thought TikTok was on this amazing rise. It's a really cool app, but Instagram seems to have made a huge play for TikTok-based Instagram Reels, and people have flocked back to Instagram. Now, the next two social media platforms is Twitter and Snapchat, both having around 500 million or less monthly active users. I know Elon's been talking a lot about bots and how do they actually get this information. Take it with a grain of salt. A lot of these are actually self-provided statistics that the platforms will kind of share. So all this data is, again, kind of subjective in some ways. Now, in terms of social media use, there's 5.6 billion people connected to the internet. How many of those are using social media? Well, there's 4.5 billion social media users in the world now. Whereas 70% of Americans use Facebook, less than 35% of people under the age of 30 are actually using Facebook regularly. The average American uses Facebook for about an hour a day, and the average session time will be around 10 to 12 minutes. Facebook's no longer the place just to stay connected with friends and family. A lot of people are using this to find businesses, products, and services now, and do actually click on ads. The average person is clicking on around 12 ads a month as well on Facebook ads. It's still very relevant to be advertising on Facebook considering there's so many people there. 3 billion monthly active users. That is a huge amount of people. That's half of the world's internet population. You can see why Facebook, even though they're not making the best decisions and things are kind of going a bit sideways, are still super relevant for anyone advertising online. It seems like Instagram is almost more popular internationally than Facebook and other apps. One thing I found really insightful was that for all of the Instagram users in the world, 80% of those are outside of the US. I could see a potential future where Instagram starts incorporating a lot of Facebook or Meta because so many users on Instagram are outside of the US. Furthermore to Instagram's success, in a single day on Instagram, there are 4.2 billion likes. To add to that, there is roughly 100 million new posts on Instagram every day. Even more stories are posted every day on Instagram, 400 million. So people obviously are sharing stories so that it's not necessarily showing up on their Instagram profile. Now, in terms of video has risen so much over the last few years, and it's only going to continue. With faster connection to the internet with 5G and Starlink coming just around the corner, I think that we're going to see video being the most popular communication method and use of the internet going forward. I already explained that Instagram and TikTok, even Facebook, are going video first, but YouTube still is the king of the castle. Netflix has 150 million monthly active users, and look, there's a lot of other streaming platforms coming out. So it's going to be interesting to see who kind of grabs market share over these next year. I think that you can see why YouTube is so powerful. YouTube does allow you to stream movies. It does allow you to stream shows. It also has this huge video engine of content creators pumping out billions of videos for people to watch. And they've tied in advertising really, really well. YouTube is a powerhouse for revenue earned for Google, and I don't see it going anywhere. I think they're going to push a lot of that money back into further development. In terms of video usage, 45% of people watch an hour of video a day online. YouTube has the highest trust with internet users as well, with 40% of millennials voting that they trust content from YouTube over other platforms. A staggering 60% of millennials said that videos on YouTube have helped shape or change their worldview, which to me is kind of scary when you think in terms of where it could take society. When it comes to online shopping, there are some countries that really stand out. China is actually the world's biggest, no surprise, online shopping country with 1 billion people using online shopping each year. They have built this into social media really well, but we're seeing Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everybody kind of copying suit with Instagram shops, Facebook shops, everything kind of, you can tag your products and tag your services. It's really becoming, I think, omnipresent in the social world online on how to buy products. The second biggest country is the United States. The United States has 260 million people who shop online every year. The next few countries that are the top countries for online shopping is Brazil with 120 million people, Germany with 64 million people per year, Mexico with 60 million people per year shopping online, and lastly, the United Kingdom with 53 million people shopping online. Now, I think that other countries are going to start surging as well. India is probably one that I'm predicting to be a huge kind of, emergence in terms of e-commerce, as well as any high population countries. Indonesia, Vietnam, we've got Japan. There's so many other countries that have huge populations and are still kind of in their infancy of online. How are things going to change in the future? I predict in the next 2 years that we're going to see the last third of the planet get online. Why is that? Well, Starlink have launched their own network internationally of global internet connections. So as an internet service provider, they have a series of 20,000 satellites they're launching. They're already up to 4,000 satellites out of this constellation, and they're giving access to anywhere on the planet, high-speed internet that's faster than Australia's fiber optics internet, 350 megabytes per second download speeds. Like, geeking out, that's fast for Australia. That is double, triple, quadruple the speeds that you would get as on a really good connection. This is now being launched in 40 countries as of today. There's 40 countries now out of the 200 countries in the world that already have access to Starlink's network. And they're saying that by the end of 2023, it should be the entire world. So that means that we're going to see internet access for the first time for the entire world. An extra 2 to 3 billion people coming online in the next year and a half. That is exciting, guys. That means these statistics are only just the beginning. If you don't have a business online, or your business isn't online, or you're just wanting to look at how you could start a business online, now's the time to do it, because it is about to get crazy good in the near future. Not even talking about all the exciting technologies that are emerging, like blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, AI, machine learning, all of these things that are making business easier, better, faster, and cheaper for business owners to thrive. I'm going to wrap up in a second, but here's what I want to say about the statistics at large and the state of the internet in 2022. We know that Google is the powerhouse of the internet. We know that Facebook is also still the king of the castle when it comes to social media, because they own and control Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp, which are basically the top 4 apps in the world when it comes to social media. We know that video is emerging, and we know that search is still very, very relevant for how people behave online. The last thing to say is that e-commerce has grown exponentially during the pandemic, and we're now seeing around $5 trillion a year going through e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Shopify, WooCommerce, and more. We're seeing a huge emergence of online shopping, and it's only going to get more and more as time goes on. $5 trillion sounds like a lot, right? But when you look at the entire retail trade, it's still only 20% of the retail revenue that we see each year. So 20% still has a long way to go. I would dare say that if you're not in e-commerce now, you're not selling your products and services online, don't worry, you haven't missed the boat. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up and make sure that you subscribe online. It really, really would be great to hear from you guys on what you thought was the most exciting part about this great overview of the internet. If you did have any questions, or you thought that I didn't point out something about the internet, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Please stay tuned for the next couple of episodes for the Social Geeks podcast, where we're going to talk about a whole bunch more of stuff that you might find pretty geeky and cool like me. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Stay tuned, and I hope you guys stay safe.